2020 Volkswagen Passat R-Line. Front brake pads and rotors. What you need to do is jack it up, support it properly, remove the front tires. Remember, those are a 17 millimeter. Sometimes they got a wheel lock on them, and that's in the trunk. And they also have a tool to remove the caps on the lug nuts, lug bolts. Okay. Okay, so here we are. So first off, we need to do is remove this spring. I stick a little screwdriver in here and I pry this out, and then I'll undo it from it. And then you have to remove the little plugs on your caliper slide pin bolts. They're right here. There's one here, and then one down here. There's a little plug on there, plastic. Remove those. Here's what the plastic plug looks like. Next, you need a 7 millimeter Allen, and remove the slide pins. Okay, you actually need to get them out of the slide pin bushings, because sometimes the pin will stay inside there, inside the threaded hole on the knuckle, and then you'll pry on, and it won't come off. The caliper won't come off till it dawns on you that it's still stuck inside the threads a little bit. So make sure you push them out and pull them out. You're gonna pull them out anyway. And here I am. I forgot to pull the spring out. Okay. It just fits in there. All right, so anyway, so stick a screwdriver in behind here, go in between the rotor and the caliper and pry it towards you a little bit. That way it pushes the piston in a little bit, so you can pull the caliper off easily without having to fight it. And then go ahead and put the caliper up on top. And here's the inner pad. It's got a spring in it. So now we need to do is clean it up with a wire brush and then push our piston in. If you don't have a tool to push them in, then you need to put the pad back in there and push up against it with a C-clamp. And screw the C-clamp in this way, and then we'll squeeze it up. Or you have this one go like that because it doesn't have the dual pistons. If you don't have the tool, then you can use a C-clamp and an old pad. Push up against the pad and put this on the other side, okay? So as you're tightening these up and pushing the pads in, you actually want to feel how hard it is to push that piston in. It should be pretty easy pushing it in. If it's hard to push in, then make sure you don't have any kinks in the line. And then once you got the kinks out, go ahead, try pushing it in again and see if it's still tough, okay? Because it should go in there nicely. If your line's not pinched and it's really hard to push it in, then you possibly might have a collapsed, restricted flex hose or a possible bad frozen piston. Should have told you this before I pushed the piston in, but you should look at the boot, see if it's torn or if there's any fluid coming out, okay? If there's fluid coming out or the boot's torn, you should replace it. Next, what you want to do is remove your caliper bracket. It's got two bolts, one here and one there, and they are 13/16 or even a 21. Okay, next we need to do is remove the rotor. The rotor is being held down with a retainer bolt, and that is a T30. Careful that you don't break your bit. If you break your bit, then you gotta use a chisel, see if you can knock it around. If you can't get it good to go knock it around with a chisel, then you need to exit with a die grinder, and then you can chisel out the 4 pieces, and then you can pound the rotor off. Okay, I tapped on the rotor with my mini sledge. It came right off. Now all you need to do is clean up this surface. The surface has to be nice and clean and shiny. No rust spots, no high spots. Okay, because if you don't have it clean and you got a high spot, it's going to go like that, and it's going to cause a brake pulsation or even a wobble in the steering wheel. So once you get that cleaned up, then you can put a fine layer of anti-seize on it. All right, got my fine film of anti-seize on my hub. Got my rotor, got it washed with soap and water, get this shipping oil off of it. Now I can go ahead and mount it and then put my retainer bolt back in there. If you don't have a retainer bolt, then you have to put a lug nut on it, a lug bolt. Okay, now that's all set, you need to clean up your caliper bracket. You need to clean up where the surface where the pad sits. Okay, I'll clean them up and then make them nice and smooth, because sometimes they wear grooves in them. And then I'll put some paint on it. Okay, I got them all nice and cleaned up, nice and shiny. What I'm gonna do is gonna put a coat of paint on them and let them dry. Okay, I got them painted. Put a little bit of lube on them, brake lube. Now I'm gonna do is get it mounted up and snug up the bolts, and then I'm gonna torque them to 90 foot-pounds. Okay, I stuck the right-hand inner pad in. It's marked on the back side. This is supposed. My pads have a sensor on it, but I don't have any sensors on my car, so I cut it off. Okay, so I put the right inner in here, and this is an outer. It says outer on it. Doesn't matter right or left. No squeakers on it. So put some lube in my slide pin grommets. Now I can put my caliper on. Great. Okay. There you go. In outer. Okay, 2 hands. Okay, caliper's on. Go ahead and get your slide pins. Push them in. Got them in there a little bit. Go ahead, push the caliper up against it. Push them all the way in there so you push them inside the holes for the threads. And now you can go ahead, put your tool on there and start them by hand. Okay, you got your slide pin bolts snugged up. Now you need to torque them to 27 foot-pounds. And then go ahead and put your little plastic caps back on them. Next will be your spring. Alright, next what I'm going to do is go ahead, push one side in here, put it up against the side there, and then all you got to do is bring this over here like so, and then guide that in there. What I do is I guide this in here, and I'll pry that over there. So it takes 2 hands to do it. Line this one up, pry that over, get it over there. Okay, what I do is I get it lined up, and then I'll pound it in there, and then I'll pry that over there. And then there's sometimes these aren't bent the right way, and they just don't want to go. So what I'll do is I'll reuse my old ones. Well, there you have it. That's how you do your front brake pads and rotors. Sorry we couldn't use the new one, but I couldn't get the new one in there, so I had to use the old one. So do the driver's side exactly the same way. And if you do have the sensor, go ahead and plug it in and route the wire properly. Mine didn't have it. So now all you need to do is put your tires on after you got both sides done. And what I have is a suspension bolt from Volkswagen. It's actually the same threads and everything. I just screw it in there. I put a little slot on the end for a screwdriver. I use that for a guide to hold my tire so I can get all my lug nuts on. Alright? So once you get all your tires on, go ahead and torque them to, I think it's 90 foot-pounds, and then lower it down to the ground, and then go inside the vehicle, start it up, push the pedal to the floor a couple times. Make sure you got a decent pedal before you put it in drive or reverse, because otherwise you won't have brakes. So anyway, after you get having a decent pedal, go ahead and open your hood and double check your fluid level in your reservoir and top it off as necessary, and that will complete it. All right, hopefully I helped you out with this video, and hopefully you can help me out by subscribing, and I appreciate it.